Alright, it is time to catch up on our Spiritforged spoilers. We have 52 new cards to talk about today. Let's not waste any time and get into them. That said, if you do enjoy this content, remember to leave a like and subscribe. You can join the Discord to discuss future videos and take part in some games or just talk about Riftbound in general. And you can support me over on Patreon if you're looking to go the extra mile like all the people on screen now. Again, we are rushing through that because we have so many cards to get through. So let's just get into them right now. Alright, so first and foremost, let's talk about the new battlefield that we've shown off here, which is Treasure Hoard. It says when you conquer here, you can pay 1 energy to make a gold gear token exhausted. For those who don't remember, you can tap and kill a gold gear token and then generate 1 power, kind of similar to a 1-use seal. So if you're playing a deck that wants to make use of a lot of power requirement cards, this is probably pretty okay, especially if you're using the Renata-Glasc legend, as she gives you energy and power for her tokens later on in the game. But this is just a solid resource generating battlefield that I think is going to be pretty effective in a lot of different decks. I especially like that it is a conquer effect and not a hold effect. That means you get the ability right away once you take it, which is great. You don't actually have to slog through your opponent's turn, so it's going to be pretty easy to proc as well. It's pretty good. I've divided the rest of the cards into their respective domains, so we're going to be starting with the body domain. And first up, we have Bone Shiver, which is a 3 energy gear. This equips for 1 and a power. It gives the equipped unit 2 might and says when you conquer, channel 1 rune exhausted. So we've kind of seen this effect on Kiana before, as when she conquers, you are either drawing a card or channeling a rune exhausted. Similarly, we have the Volibear effect in body that also gives you the channel 1 rune exhausted. That seems to be a theme that they have going in that color. This is a fairly cheap equipment, which is really nice, just 3 energy, although equipping it is 1 energy and a power, so not terrible. There's a lot of things like Lucian with Weapon Master that I think will get a lot out of this, as it's just a really good ramp resource and gives 2 might, so I think you'll be pretty happy to run this in general, and you can put it on any deck that really wants to reach that high end of their deck much faster. I think if you're using this, you're probably going to be leaning towards things like Kiana. I think the Jax deck is going to make really good use of this, because his legend ability allows you to equip a gear just by tapping him, and there's no other cost associated with that. So Bone Shiver is a pretty good card when you're paying 3 energy and then 1 energy and a power to put it onto something, but it's a very good card when you're equipping it for free to whatever big units you put out on the field. And as I mentioned, it pairs with Kiana really well. So let's say you play your Kiana on your 2nd turn. On your 3rd turn, you can play Bone Shiver, use Jax to equip it for free. That is now a 6 might Kiana, and if it conquers the battlefield, you channel 2 energy. Like, that's pretty solid as a combo already. Next up, we have Buru Captain. This is a 3 energy, 1 power for 3 might, and they have the ability that when you play him, you can either draw 1 or buff him. So I like cards that have this kind of modal. You can choose one or the other option. Anytime that you see a 3-drop with a draw is pretty good. We've already seen Lecturing Yordle, for example, be one of the best 3-drops in the mind domain. I'm not crazy about it having to have a power cost as well in this card. That makes it a little bit more difficult to slot in, but again, it is a little bit stronger and gives you that flexibility. Paying 3 energy and a power for a 4 might unit because it gets the buff, very reasonable. It's above board on stats, and if you're paying it for the 3 might, you still get the draw, which is great as well. I mean, card draw is going to win you the game in most cases. So yeah, just a very flexible unit. It works in all of the buff decks that we have right now, like Lee Sin probably is the best use of this. And notably, that deck is missing something in the 3-drop spot that gives a buff. We have the First Mate is the typical card there right now. I don't think that this replaces First Mate at all, but it's an option that you can put in that 3 energy spot. Next up, we have a mini Deadbloom Predator with the Dauntless Vanguard. 4 energy, 1 power, and 4 might. It says you may play me to an occupied enemy battlefield. So this is a great card for playing catch-up, especially in the early game, because typically you're going to have an opponent's unit that has 2 or 3 might on a battlefield after their turn. You can just drop this. Now you're up 4 to their 3 or 2. You're probably going to win that battlefield very easily. This is going to fit really well into any orange deck that's going to be playing a bit more aggressively and wants to take those battlefields early. You can almost think of it as a 3 energy unit with Accelerate. And in that case, again, we're having 4 might is above board on stats. So it's just a good card all around. I think this will probably see a decent amount of play, depending on what kind of orange decks we see come around. So following that, we have what is, I'd assume, the standard orange gear equipment. This is 2 energy for Doran's Ring. It just gives 2 might and equips for 1 power. Not super impactful. It is a permanent 2 buff for fairly cheap, so it could have a place, but I'm assuming they're going to have much better equipment in general. It's hard to judge how good equipment will be right now. I'd assume that only the ones that are very powerful and have really strong effects are going to make it through. These like little ones that just give a little bit of stats might be okay, as they're fairly cost effective. But I think in general, we'll be looking for abilities more so than just stats, unless those stats are crazy. Like if this card gave like 4 might, like you're going to play it. But it right now at just 2 might, I don't think so. It might find a home. Again, like Lucian wants to have a lot of equipment on the board. Each one gives assault. So like he kind of double dips on this effect, but I don't think so. Cards that will help equipment like that find a home though is the Veteran Poro. This is a 2 energy for 2 might, but it has Weapon Master, which means when you play it, you can move an equipment onto him for just 1 power, even if it's equipped to someone else, which means you are easily attaching some of the more powerful equipment that might have a high equip cost for very cheap, and you can kind of get those balls rolling much faster. I think this one will see play in Lucian more so than Jax, because Jax can just tap the legend to equip anyways, so the Weapon Master skill is less useful in Jax. I'm not saying it won't be useful in Jax, I'm just saying that the ability is already on your legend, so I don't know how much redundancy you need on top of that. Lucian will benefit more in general from this type of effect. We got Big Fishy. This is 7 energy and 2 power for 6 might. A little bit understated, we'll see why. So this has Accelerate for 1 and an orange, sure, and it says I cost 2 less for each of your mighty units. That's why this card's really good. Yeah, if you're playing this in Volibear or Fiora, you're going to have a bunch of mighty units available, ostensibly. Any kind of equipped deck might also have some mighty units as well, because they get the stat boost, and that'll be really nice. So if you have 3 mighty units on the field, this is now a 1 energy and then accelerate cost to move right away for a 6 might unit. That's pretty good. And I think 3 mighty is fairly reasonable, honestly, especially if you're running this in the Volibear deck and you're playing things like Captain Farron, or Kraken Hunter, or the Blazing Dragon, I think it's called, the red one that has Accelerate. Like, there's enough early game mighty units that I think we'll be able to get this out fairly early and fairly cheaply, and anything with Accelerate at this size is just good on average. Strike Down is a very interesting removal-based effect for equipment decks. This is 3 energy and 1 power, and says choose an equip-friendly unit. It deals damage equal to its might to an enemy unit, then detach an equipment from it. So you're only detaching 1 equipment if you're building like a kind of Voltron deck where everything's stacked on 1 card. So that's not too bad. And again, if you're playing Jax, you just tap Jax, put it right back on the unit. Pretty okay. I think this will effectively be a bit of a stronger version of Challenge, as your unit's not taking any damage here, and you can just re-equip with Jax afterwards for free. The problem is you do need a unit that has an equipment, but if you're playing this kind of card in the deck, I'd imagine you're going to have one. Next up, we have Warmog's Armor. This is 1 energy and says equip for 1 orange, which totally reasonable. When I conquer, buff me, and it gives 1 might. So I think this will be good in Sett particularly. Maybe Lee Sin, but I don't really see it being playable in anything else for the most part. Fiora would be pretty good. It lets your units get to mighty much easier, and actually it is pretty cheap. So like 1 energy and 1 power, you put it on a 4 attack thing, and then it becomes mighty, so Fiora gets to channel a rune, and you're making up for the power you spent to equip it. So like there's an argument there for sure. Yeah, I could see this being played in a Fiora deck for sure. Probably in a Lucian deck as well, because you're gonna have, like, again, he wants cheap equipment so you can stack them tall on someone. So yeah, the more I think about this card, the more I like it a lot, actually. I think it'll find a place in a lot of orange decks. Anything that cares about buffs, anything that cares about mighty, anything that cares about equipment, all kind of work with this. Probably not the Jax one. I'd imagine you'd want bigger equipment that you're kind of like cheating into play rather than saving 1, but still pretty good. Even in that, I wouldn't complain about it. This is a card that was revealed a little bit earlier. I just haven't talked about it in the video yet. So we have Here to Help. This is 2 energy and a power, and it is a hidden card. Otherwise, it is played at action speed and says you may play a unit from your hand to the battlefield you control, reducing its cost by 3. So overall, you'll be getting a 1 energy discount if you're casting this hard from hand, though you are paying an extra power for it. What you do want this for is the hidden effect, because you'll get a 3 energy discount, which is pretty significant. So let's say turn 2, you conquer the battlefield, you play this as a hidden card underneath it, you manage to hold the entire turn. Then on your turn, you'll be able to play a 7 or 8 drop if I'm doing my math right. That's a turn earlier, that's not too bad. I think this will actually get to see a pretty decent spot in any deck that's running Shen particularly, because the problem with this card just inherently is that you have to get to your turn to really get the value from it. But Shen can be played at reaction speed if you control a battlefield and you're defending there. So you play this at that battlefield, you have Shen in hand, and now he costs 1 power as opposed to 3 energy and 1 power. That could be really good as a combo. Outside of that, I don't know how useful this will be. Okay, we have our first champion card here. This is 4 energy and a power for 3 might, a little bit understated, for Jax Relenting. This is his orange version. I believe it's our first Icathia region card. I don't think we've had one before, so that's kind of cool that they're including that as a region. So Jax has Weapon Master. Again, lets him equip a gear for 1 power less, even if it's attached to something else. That's fine. It's not too bad. It says when you attach an equipment to him, you can pay 1 to draw 1. That's really good. So this in tandem with the legend card means you're going to be able to equip something to him every turn for free, really, which means you can draw a card for 1 energy. So you're double dipping on the Jax legend effects in a really effective way. I think that'll be a fantastic card, honestly. I think it's going to synergize with any equipment-based deck, and the Jax, obviously, the Jax legend is going to get a ton of value from this. Next up, we have Kato the Arm, a classic Runeterra card. This is a 4 energy, 1 power unit with 3 might. It has Deflect, always strong to see that. It says, when I move to a battlefield, give a friendly unit here my keywords and might equal to my might this turn. That's really cool. In Runeterra, Kato gave the next unit 3 attack and trample, basically, or overwhelm in that game. So in this game, it gives the other units at the battlefield he moves to that turn Deflect, which is really cool. Makes it really difficult for the opponent to interact while you're attacking. And then might, so +3 to everyone there for that turn. So in a kind of like low to the ground creature strategy, this is almost like a Thousand Tail Watcher. You can also pair it with purple with things like Ride the Wind and surprise opponents with this effect. That'd be really strong, I think. But yeah, I think this is just a generally really strong card that's great for pushing for your last point or for surprising people with a bunch of extra might if you have Ride the Wind active. Also works with Tide Turner if you have that, so I think this is going to be great in purple decks. It'll work great with Misfortune because you just gank them over to the next battlefield the next turn. It's really good card that'll fit a lot of decks, I think. Now, this also works with a lot of the equipment because a lot of those gear will give units keywords as well. And we're going to be adding on those to everyone at that battlefield. That can be pretty strong. Notably, if you put this in a Lucian deck, you put 3 equipment on him. Now he has Assault 3 and Deflect. You push him forward. Your entire board, while attacking, gets +6 now. So it'd be +6 for his might, +3 Assault to everyone, plus Deflect, and then whatever the might from the equipment is as well. I'd really like this card. I think it's going to be really fun to build around and play with. Another card I really like is Yone. Ability's fine. It's like pretty cool. But I just like that it works as the opposite of the Yasuo champion card that we had earlier that like deals damage when it attacks. So this is a 5 energy, 1 power unit for 5 might. Yone Blade Master is Weapon Master. Again, when you play him, you can equip something to him for a little bit cheaper. And he says, when I conquer an open battlefield, deal damage equal to my might to an enemy unit in a base. So again, this is going to be working with purple cards really well. You can fight or flight, move one of their cards back, move Yone in, and then deal damage to that card without him taking damage. That's pretty cool. You can take advantage again of Ride the Wind by moving it to an open battlefield during your opponent's turn. Maybe after they play a unit, if they're like attacking into Yone, you just go, nope, swap to the other side, pop the one in the back. That's kind of cool. The problems with this card is that it has to target an open battlefield. You know, that can happen pretty often, but it can also be a bit difficult to make it work. So you just need to be smart with when you use it. There's a bit of a restriction on how functional it is. Either way, damaging back row units is always really something that's very powerful. So depending on how often you're able to proc this could be a very good effect. Also, new keyword here, we have Yone being a demon, which I don't think we have any other cards so far that have that. Next up, we have Aphelios. This is a champion unit, 4 energy, 1 power for 4 might. It says, when you attach an equipment to me, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Ready 2 runes, channel 1 rune exhausted, or buff a friendly unit. So this is kind of interesting. It's modal in a lot of ways similar to Udyr, who had like the 4 options you could do by spending a buff. Readying 2 runes helps you recoup the price that you paid to actually equip the equipment, so that's pretty cool. Channeling 1 rune exhausted is always good. Again, helps you make up for the price that you paid to equip onto him. And then buffing a friendly unit is fine. Green has some buff cards with Leona and Master Yi, I guess, and Lee Sin as well. So like, there's some functionality there. I think that might be the least used one. All of them are fine though. Like, you're not going to be complaining about getting any of these effects. And again, if you're stacking multiple on him at once, you can really benefit from this each time you do it. Jax, of course, is in green, which we have to talk about anytime there's an equipment card in green. So you can tap him, equip onto here, and then untap 2 runes. That's pretty cool. It effectively gives you 2 extra energy for the turn. That can really help you. And of course, you can channel or you can buff units with that effect as well. I think that's going to be really strong in combination with Jax. You might also see this with Azir or Ornn, as they have a lot of equipment synergies as well. Potentially with Aurelia. Let me check the wording on that card. Yeah, so Aurelia says when you choose an enemy unit with like an equip ability, for example, you can exhaust her, ready that unit, and you have to pay 1 power. So every time you do that, you can like get extra mileage out of Aphelios here if you're targeting it to equip multiple times. That's probably the worst way to use this card in comparison to the other 3 green leaders that we're getting this set, but it's still something you can play around with. Again, I really like these cards that give you versatility and options. I think that'll be pretty good. Another card we got revealed a little while ago is Feral Strength. 2 energy for a reaction spell that has the repeat keyword. First time we're talking about that on this channel. Basically, you can pay an extra cost and then do the card's effect 1 more time. It's kicker in Magic. Everything is kicker. But this says give a unit 2 might this turn. So it's kind of competing in a spot with like Feral Strength and Discipline in my head. So Discipline gives 2 might and then you can draw a card. But this has just the 2 might without the draw, and you have the option to do it again, you know, which is better. Feral might give 7 but costs 4. This can be paid for 2 if you want just a smaller buff. So it's a little bit more flexibility than both those cards. I think in general though, those 2 will still be better than this. Unless there's something that goes off like using repeat triggers, but I don't know. I don't see that existing yet. So like this one's not terrible, but I don't see it really seeing play. Where this actually might see some play though is in tandem with Sona, as you untap 4 at the end of your turn, and you can now use this to give it 4 power. Outside of that, probably not. We have a card for our Yasuo and Aurelia decks. This is the Stellar Corn Herder. 4 energy for 3 might, and says when I move, draw 1. So obviously the best unit to compare this to is the Traveling Merchant, which is in purple. When it moves, you can rummage or discard, then draw. So in this case, you're just getting the draw. Obviously it doesn't proc any of the discard synergies, but you're not losing any cards, so probably better on average. This is twice the cost, notably. That might matter, it might make it a little bit slow, but like any movement-based deck, this is super good. You put this down in the base, and then you use Yasuo to pay 2 and move it forward. That's a free card draw. You can then like hide a fight or flight in that battlefield. Their turn starts, you fight or flight it back. Once they attack into her, you get to draw again. Like, there's a lot of synergy with purple, obviously, and I think this will just be a generally good way for purple to get a lot of card advantage. Doran's Shield, I can't remember if it was in the first video we did, but this is an equipment for 1 energy that says equip for 1 green and give the unit 1 might and tank. Fine. Again, it'll be good in like the Voltron decks. Giving something tank to protect something else is kind of cool. But, you know, it's I think supposed to be a less powerful card in general. But any of these 1 energy equipments, I think, will have some potential. Guardian Angel is a 2 energy equipment. Equips for 1 green. And it's just Zhonya's Hourglass, basically, for a specific unit. So you're overcoming the ability for your opponent to, like, force the Zhonya's trigger, but you're basically paying 1 extra power here. Fine, and it becomes permanent attached to that unit, which is cool, and it gives them 1 might. So I think this is going to be pretty good for all the reasons that Zhonya's Hourglass was good. And again, pair with Jax, put on someone for free, they don't die this turn. It's great. Alright, now on to our Chaos cards, and we're going to start off with Called Shot. This is a 0 energy spell for 1 power. I think that's the only cards we have like that right now are the seals. So we'll see how this is. So this is an action and repeatable card, and you can repeat it by playing an extra purple power. This says look at the top 2 cards of your main deck, draw 1, recycle the other. So currently we're playing stacked deck, which looks at the top 3, adds 1, recycles 2. That costs 1 energy. This can potentially look at the top 4. You're recycling 2 in that case, drawing 2. I think if you have seals in the deck, this is pretty okay. Otherwise, I don't know. I think that might be a little bit too expensive and put you a bit too far behind. This could work with Nocturne, obviously, and force him out. That's kind of cool. But again, Nocturne needs you to pay purple as well. So now you're like really running low on runes. The other thing, like, we do have treasures or gold tokens in this set, so those might help you overcome this a little bit, but yeah, I think this is just a worse stack deck in most cases. I don't think it's a bad card, but I'm still probably picking stack deck over it. Now, whether you run both of them together, that's something else, who knows? But yeah, I don't know about this one too much. Maybe if we get more reveal cards as well, then they'll have some synergy there. Our first Chaos equipment is Doran's Ring for 1 energy. It says equip for a purple. And then when I conquer, discard 1, draw 1, and it has 1 might. So this is the Zon Warren's effect on an equipment, which is pretty cool. Discard is probably my favorite archetype in the game right now, so I really am excited to play this. In that deck, if I don't hit that Traveling Merchant, it can feel like the deck's going too slow. This effectively allows me to play 3 more copies of it. I think that's pretty good. So I do really like this one. I think this will definitely see some play in discard strategies. We have Loyal Pup, 3 energy for 3 might. This was a fantastic Teemo support card in Runeterra. In Riftbound, though, it says when you defend at a battlefield, you may move me there. So it kind of works with Teemo still. If you're using Teemo Strategist, you can like flip Teemo Strategist, then put this over there as well. They both have defense triggers. Sure, like not really. I don't, it's kind of unfortunate that it doesn't follow over and like directly support Teemo, but like it's still a pretty okay card. What is that purple card? Stealthy Pursuer is a 4 energy, 4 might card from purple in the Origin set that when another unit from their location moves, she moves with them. So before we were kind of pairing it with Yasuo if it saw any play, or Kane, I guess. The pup kind of works with her, where like you put her and the pup together, and then when you defend, you can move the pup and this as a reaction kind of thing. That's pretty cool. I like the idea of using her more defensively than that offense one anyways, because the way it would work before is like, let's say you move Kane twice, he's indestructible and can't be hurt, right? But then this thing moves and they just target it to die. And that was kind of bad, but like when you're choosing to move it in with the pup, that adds a lot of options, agency. That adds a lot of agency on your own side, and I think that's going to be very strong. And like on top of that, 3 energy for 3 might is just fair. Outside of that, it's fine. I could definitely see it seeing some kind of play or at least experimentation. Our next unit is the Treasure Hunter for 2 energy. It has 1 might, very understated. But it says, when I move, play a gold gear token exhausted. So again, purple, ton of movement effects. You can generate a lot of gold this way. The problem is you have to keep her safe. So that can be a little bit difficult because, like I said, 1 might, she can die to just about anything. But if you can get this going a couple times, that helps pay for things like the called shot from before. That could be pretty good together. Without seeing too much ahead, though, I'm not super confident that this will do much, and I think it has a hard time competing with what we already have in purple. Boots of Swiftness, really cool card. This is 3 energy and equips for 1 purple, gives 2 might, so already decent buff there, and it gives the unit that it's attached to ganking. That's pretty good. So this is basically the Misfortune Legend effect on an equipment, but for 1 power to equip it to that card. That's probably great, honestly. 3 might be a little bit expensive to get it going in the first place, but once it's on the board, I think this is going to have a lot of really impactful moments. You can pair it with, like, if you're putting this in a Teemo deck or an Ezreal deck, you can pair it with Mundo, and now he can go back and forth between the battlefields without you having to use Ride the Wind. That's kind of a game changer. Ganking just traditionally is one of the strongest keywords that we have in the game, and this will probably make it even better. So Windsinger is another unit that has that Treasure Hunter stat line, 2 energy for 1 might, but this is a hidden unit that has, when you play me, you may return another unit at a battlefield with might 3 or less to its owner's hand. So it's Gust on a body. I really like Gust. I think it's a very strong effect. Adding it on a hidden card is pretty powerful, I think. A big problem with the Teemo Strategist deck is that there's not enough hidden cards that we can really make good use of it. So this could definitely fit in there. On top of that, like 1 extra energy for a body in comparison to Gust, I think makes this pretty good. Switcheroo, this is a very cool one. So 2 energy and 2 power for this spell, and it is a hidden card. Again, hidden has a lot of synergy already in the game. You can hide this for 1 energy if you're playing Teemo and you don't have to pay that 2 power. That's a pretty big discount that we can avoid there. And it has, at action speed, swap the might of 2 units at the same battlefield this turn. So if you have your Teemo on the battlefield, you can then swap its might with the Thousand Tail Watcher that's running into it, or the Mundo, or the Dead Bloom Predator, and then like you just win the fight. So this is super strong. I think it's really similar to Facebreaker almost. where it like negates the attack in a lot of ways. And yeah, I just think this is going to be very strong. It's also similar to Convergent Mutation, which we've see some play. The one that like gives one unit's might to another unit, or it copies the might at least. But this is stealing it from your opponent, which adds a lot of potential. You don't need a second unit there. You just take whatever their bigger unit is. And if they don't have a bigger unit, then you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to trigger this card. So I think very strong card. It'll definitely see a bunch of play in Teemo and maybe some other decks as well. Another purple champion, we have Draven Audacious. 6 energy, 1 power, and 6 might. So very high cost. And he has the ability Deflect, which you love to see. And then the first time I win a combat each turn, you can score 1 point. So he enters, you put him on the field. Let's say you're playing Yasuo in this case. You pay Yasuo's ability, move him forward. That's 2 points for free. You pass the turn, they attack the other battlefield. You go, nope, ride the wind. That's 4 points. That's half of what you need to win the game. You know, pretty good. On top of that, his downside is when I die in combat, choose an opponent, they score 1 point. So basically, you just have to make it so he doesn't die in combat. Ride the wind, push him back to your base. They don't get the point. If they have to like singularity him or falling star him, they don't get the point. Just keep him safe and you're going to get a lot of extra points. You're probably going to win the game through him. I think this is super strong. Pair it in with the Draven legend as well, and you get to draw a card when you do that. Like, that's really cool. I think this is a very strong card. The only thing I'm worried about is that it's rather expensive. So all of those combos I was mentioning are great, but you need 10 energy to make that happen at the very least. And for like a game-winning effect like that, I think that's pretty fair, but I don't know. So this is a hesitant, I really like this card. Okay, on to Last Rites. This is maybe a sign that we're going to get a Yorick card. That'd be kind of cool. So 3 energy for this gear that gives 2 might. It has the equip cost that you can pay a purple, and you have to recycle 2 cards from your trash to put it onto something. So that's a bit of a different requirement than we've seen so far. And typically it won't make too much of a difference. If you're playing like Teemo Nocturne, then you can put the Nocturnes back in your deck. That's an option, you know, especially if you're towards the end of your deck, you can almost guarantee you'll see them. Sure, I know as a Teemo player, I get to the bottom of the deck pretty often, and this can help you maybe see those cards that you've missed. And then when you conquer or hold, you can play a unit from your trash. You still have to pay its cost though. So this is a Monster Reborn or a Reanimate on an equipment. I think that's going to be really cool. Pair it with like Mind Splitter, and then once a turn, you can rip a card from your opponent's hand. That's great. Pair it with Mundo, get your big Bungus back. Pair it with another Teemo, you have a good defender. I think this will equally be good for getting small units with good effects like Traveling Merchant back on the field, as well as putting bigger units that are game-winning later in the game as well. So this basically says all the units in your trash act as a second hand from now on. Great. I think this is just going to be a great card. Moving on to the Fury domain, and we have a very cool spell to start here. This is Against the Odds, featuring Pantheon art. Hopefully we get a Pantheon card. 2 energy, reaction spell. It says give a friendly unit at a battlefield 2 might this turn for each enemy there. So you swing 1 unit into 4, and then suddenly they get +8 power for 2 energy. Pretty good. So where this starts seeing comparable value to things we have already, right now we have Cleave, which is give a unit Assault 3. So 1 energy at action speed to give Assault 3, which is 3 might, only when you're attacking. So given the best case scenario, you need 3 enemies on the opponent's team for this to be worth 2 Cleaves when attacking. But you can also play it on the defense. This is 1 card rather than 2. This has the potential to go even bigger. So there's a lot of flexibility. There's a very high top end for this. And I think this is just an option for an extremely powerful card in red. I can definitely see it being played in Kai'Sa. I could see it getting played in Rumble, Annie for sure, maybe even Jinx. Like this is a great card, I think. This is just a great card, I think. I think it'll see a lot of experimentation. Next, we have an equipment in Fury, which is the Long Sword for 2 energy and a power. It has the Quick Draw ability, which is a new one for us. So this keyword basically has reaction, and when you play it, you automatically attach it to a unit. So the reason that it also costs a power is because you get to equip right away. I think that's totally fair. It gives 2 might, so 2 energy and a power to give something 2 might at reaction speed, and that 2 might is permanent, and even if that unit dies, you can just put it onto something else. Fair. Pretty good, I think. Afterwards, you can equip it for 1 power to whatever you want. Just good. I think this is just going to be a good card. This is going to be great in Lucian because you get that extra assault trigger as well. Yeah, all around, very happy with this card. I think it'll just be like a good, like, bread and butter gear. Card I think is extremely powerful is Piercing Light. This is another Fury spell, 2 energy, 1 power. React, you can pay the cost again. So it does get a little bit expensive at that point. But you know, if you're playing Kai'Sa or you're playing anything that has the Fury seals, this is pretty manageable still. This says deal 2 damage to a unit at a battlefield, then deal 2 damage to up to 1 other unit. Notably, that second unit does have to be a different unit because it says 1 other unit, but it doesn't have to be at the same battlefield. It doesn't have to be at a battlefield. So if they have something in the back, you can still poke it for 4, which I think makes me compare this to Falling Star, which deals 3 damage twice, but now you can deal 2 and 2, and then have the option to pay it again for 2 and 2 more. So we're talking about 8 damage there as opposed to the 6, but it costs 2 more energy. I think it's pretty great, honestly. I think this will see a lot of play, especially in Kai'Sa, but with the inclusion of gold tokens as well, like this will just be good. Back row removal is obviously at a premium. This could see play in any red deck, but I think in particular, things that play the gold tokens and Kai'Sa will have a lot of value here. Extremely cool unit is Rel. This is 4 energy for 4 might. No power requirement, so that's pretty cool. And she has the tank keyword, as well as when she attacks, you can play an equipment with energy cost no more than 2, ignoring its cost and attach it to her. So this makes any of your cheap equipments free. You don't have to pay their power costs. You don't have to pay their equip costs. That's pretty good. You're getting a lot of value every time she attacks. You do have to fill your deck with a lot of small equipment, but I think if you're playing Lucian, you want to do that anyways. You could also, again, potentially play this with purple and then move her again to another battlefield and then get 2 equipment triggers that way. Sure, I think that'll be pretty okay. Again, you just have to be in a deck that runs a lot of these small equipments and enough card draw to generate this. Yeah, no real complaints here. I think this is just going to be a very strong card. We have a very fuzzy picture of the Void Drone. This is some Rek'Sai support. 3 energy for 3 might. I cost 2 less if I'm played anywhere other than from your hand. So anything that checks the top card of your deck and wants you to play it, like Rek'Sai or her other support cards, you're gonna go pretty far. And this is a 1-drop 3 might unit. Right off the bat, it makes me think of Flame Chompers quite a bit. That card, when it was discarded, you could pay a power and then play it from the discard. And that was also 3 might. But this instead is just 1 energy, though you can't like plan around discarding it. You just have to high roll and hit it. If you do have to hard cast it, it's like fine. 3 energy for 3 mights, not something you're going to complain about. It would be nice if they had another effect, but yeah, this just seems like a high roll deck anyways, so why not? Another early reveal is Plundering Poro. This is our blue Poro finally. 2 energy, 2 might. When I conquer, play a gold gear token exhausted. Fine. I mean, anything that generates gold tokens, I think it's going to be pretty okay. This is a little bit more difficult to play than the treasure hunter, whatever she was, the 2 energy, 1 might in purple, because she just had to move to give you the token, whereas this has to actually conquer. But you have the extra might here to make it possible to conquer or do other things with. But overall, I think this is probably pretty comparable. Again, I don't know if it competes with the blue units at 2 that we have, but depending on how good the gold tokens we end up being, it's probably okay. The Poros always seem to be pretty alright, except maybe Mystic Poro, but like even that's okay sometimes. We have Bellows Breath, a 1 energy, 1 power card featuring some Art of Ornn, which always great. At action speed and repeatable, for the same price as the card, deal 1 damage to up to 3 units at the same location. So it's 1 and a power to deal 3 damage across 3 units. So it's comparable to Hextech Ray, which was 3 damage to 1 unit. You can also repeat it to deal 6 damage total, but it's all in 1 card, so you have like that flexibility of playing it 2 different ways. I think this is fine. I think if token decks are very popular, then this is great. If they're building like Voltron, just 1 big unit with 10 equipment on it, this becomes very bad though. It also is a little bit unfortunate they have to be at the same location, but it doesn't say at a battlefield. So you can target 3 units in their base. That's some flexibility, I think. That makes it a lot better actually, now that I'm thinking about that. Yeah, this is probably an okay to good spell depending on the meta and how fast things are, or like how many units people are playing. Again, if they're building tall, this becomes less good. If they're building wide, it becomes very good. Next up, we have World Atlas, 3 energy for this equipment. It equips 4/1 mind power. It says when I hold, play 2 gold gear tokens exhausted, and it gives 2 might. So this is every time it holds, you're getting 2 gold. I think in an Ahri deck, this could be very good, because you're double dipping, getting the extra point and getting the 2 might here and the 2 gear tokens. Any blue hold strategy is probably okay. Teemo might like this because the whole thing is holding in that deck. What else? I don't think Lux or Viktor super care about this. Probably not Kai'Sa either. There's like some argument for Lux, I guess. The new champions, Ezreal might get some value out of this because of the targeting. Ornn, I don't think cares. Rumble probably likes this because he's going to be stacking shield effects, so he's holding potentially. And then Renata-Glasc, I guess, really likes this because she wants as many gear as possible at the end of the game. So yeah, this will definitely have a home. I think the decks that want it will really like it, and the decks that don't will probably not value at all from it, which I guess you could say about any cards. But yeah, we're looking at Renata-Glasc, Ahri, and Teemo, I think, are the big three for this. Really cool art here with Premonition. This is 2 energy and 3 power. Very expensive. At reaction speed, you can draw 3 cards, though. Okay, that's pretty good. So Kai'Sa likes this. Obviously, you can get the discount on that. Renata-Glasc likes this because she makes all of the gear tokens. I think if you're playing World Atlas, this becomes very good. I think if you're not, then this probably isn't good enough, right? Like putting yourself back 3 runes is really rough. Again, if you're playing the Mind Steal, that's maybe a little bit better. Mind Steal plus Kai'Sa, this becomes a 2 energy, 1 power to draw 2. I don't know, I feel like this is maybe too expensive, but if there's a deck that can facilitate that much power, like generates a lot of gold tokens, and this could see some play. In that deck, I think this is obviously bonkers. But outside of that, I just think it's too expensive, maybe. Speaking of tokens and Renata-Glasc, we have 4 energy, 1 power, and 4 might for Renata-Glasc Industrialist. This has the very simple effect that just says your tokens enter ready. So this is okay in the gold generating tokens. Having access to them right away is kind of cool. Where I think this is better, though, is probably in Viktor, Garen, and Lux, because they put a bunch of tokens on the board, but they can't actually act with them right away. This can add a little bit of pressure to those decks, but even so, I think 4 might be a little bit expensive for it. Getting more token support, this becomes a lot better. When paired with something like Imperial Decree, this becomes pretty good. So you can Renata-Glasc on turn 2, and then turn 3, whatever they have there, you Imperial Decree, and token from Viktor, swing it in, kill something as like a worst case scenario. I don't know. I think this has more use in token decks than it does Renata-Glasc herself, at least from what I've seen so far. Terrifyingly ugly card. We have 2 energy, 2 might, Honest Broker. This has the Death Knell ability, play a gold gear token exhausted. Really good. I've been waiting for more yellow Death Knell effects, as we have like Karthus is just waiting to do something. So we could maybe double up there and get 2 gold tokens. That's pretty good. And like they don't really want to kill this, which means you can potentially have time to actually set Karthus up and then swing in with this, or hold with this and then play Karthus and get that effect. Yeah, I think this is fine. I think this will probably have a similar spot to how we use like Watchful Sentry. So you just kind of throw it out and use it as a resource generator. Again, we're in yellow, so we can pair it with things in the same way we do with Soaring Scout. So like you just put this on the field and then you Hidden Blade it. So then you're getting the gold gear token and you're getting the 2 card draw. That's pretty good. What is the other card? The yellow one. Spectral Matron is another card. You can revive this with Spectral Matron, and then you're getting the effect again. Spectral Matron does cost 2, so this way you can kind of get some of that value back, maybe. Baited Hook, I think, also gets a lot out of this. You put this down, you baited hook it, you get that extra power, and then you get to replace it with a better unit. That's something. So yeah, this is a pretty flexible card. This works in a lot of decks. This has a lot of synergy with what yellow already wants to do. I like it. Yellow also has a really high power requirement in their cards, so this can help alleviate that quite a bit. Next up, we have the BF Sword for 4 energy. It comes in with 3 might, and you can equip it for 1 yellow power. Too slow, right? Like having it give 3 might is great, but it doesn't do anything else. It's a little bit on the expensive side for 4 energy as well. I think most equipment decks probably want like either low to the ground cheap equipment or just like big blowout things. And this is certainly a lot of might, but it's nothing else. And I don't think it's going to be game winning on its own. Maybe you put this like in a Sett deck. Leona, also not crazy. Fiora, arguably. You can like put it on the Fiora Victorious or whatever, Fiora Triumphant, whatever the yellow Fiora is. And like that she's suddenly a big bitch who's hard to deal with. That's something. Outside of that, I don't see any real deck that wants this. Azir? Yeah, Azir, this could be good. Every time you make a token, you just put that on them for free. That's okay. I guess it is just one power to put on anything as well, right? So it's a big upfront investment, but you get a lot of value over it for the rest of the game, potentially. I don't know. I feel like this might be too slow, but maybe I'm undervaluing equipment in general. So hard to tell without having played with them. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on BF Sword. I think this is the one I'm most mixed on so far. Unsung Hero, I like this art actually. 2 energy, 2 might, Death Knell. If I was mighty, draw 2. So you put the BF Sword on this, and then you're drawing 2 when she dies. That's pretty okay. Put that in the Fiora deck as well. You get to channel when she becomes mighty. That makes BF Sword a lot better. Again, you can pair it with Karthus if you want, and you're now drawing 4. That's kind of cool, no? I think there's like maybe something cool we could do with that deck. Yeah, no, I like this. This is fun. It is obviously a big investment to get it there, but with all the equipment, that's very possible. Alter Memories, 2 energy for this gear, not an equipment. Whenever a friendly ally dies, you may exhaust me to draw 1, then put a card from your hand on the top or bottom of the main deck. Ooh. Okay, so this is hand fixing, which is something. Potentially, once we get purple, this can be used with Nocturne to like put Nocturne back on top of the deck. Dazzling Aurora deck to guarantee that like you put a Volibear back on top. That could be fun. More likely though, we're using this with Rek'Sai, putting the card that we want to reveal to trigger her effect at the top of the deck and then getting it that way. The Void Drone from earlier, you can put back on top of the deck when something else dies, then play it for 1 rather than 3. That's okay. Yeah, I think this card has a lot of synergy, which is really cool. It only costs 2, which is pretty reasonable. The flavor text there is by Elise, so we might get some Elise cards. I wouldn't mind that. Kind of cool spider lady. But yeah, this is just a cool one. I think this is going to have a lot of synergy and a lot of unique playstyles that you can work around with. Speaking of Rek'Sai, we have Rek'Sai Swarm Queen. This is 5 energy, 1 power, and 5 might. It says, when I attack, you may reveal the top 2 cards of your main deck. You may play 1, then recycle the rest. If the played card is a unit, you may play it here. So best case scenario, you swing in, you see like a Void Drone, and you put it in for cheap. Maybe you see something with a cool Death Knell ability, get that effect going off. There's a lot that could go well here. Obviously, you don't have to play a unit as well. So if you get like a Hidden Blade, you can proc that. You can get a Call to Glory, I think is the buff one that like gives something +3. So like that's an option. Yeah, this is a really fun card. I don't know if any of you played Vanguard, which is another TCG, but like when your main unit attacked in that game, you would check the top 2 cards of the deck, and then depending on what was there, you'd get different effects. This is like really reminding me of that, and that's very fun. I loved playing Vanguard, but long time ago. And again, like once this triggers, you can then use the Rek'Sai Legends ability to look at the top 2 cards of the deck and play one of those as well if you conquer. So you're like running through your deck rather quickly here. You want a lot of low to the ground cards, I'd imagine, so you can play them all. Yeah, it's an interesting deck. I think it'll be a lot of fun to play. So we have another yellow Fiora. This is not the one I was talking about earlier, but still fine. But this is a 3 energy, 3 might. It says when a unit you control becomes mighty, you may pay a yellow power to ready it. So this works really well with the other Fiora. Basically, you swing it in, you conquer a battlefield if you can, then you make it mighty, it now gains ganking, you move it to the other battlefield. Kind of a cool combo. You can also, once we get a purple and yellow deck, put on the Swiftfoot boots, or Boots of Swiftness. Swiftfoot boots are from Magic. But you put those onto something, make them mighty, give them ganking that way. So that could be a cool combo. Anything with ganking I think is really strong here. And then of course you'll have like just the ability to move again for big units. So you can buff them up, ready them, whatever. But like let's say you have a good unit in Battlefield A, you pull them back, give them stats there, now it's ready, you can move it to Battlefield B. So even if they don't have ganking, you kind of give them like a Darius Trifarian effect almost. This also lets you pull a unit out of a battlefield. So you move it in, you conquer, you give it mighty, ready it and pull it back, and now it's safe for next turn for you to do it again. So this just adds a lot of versatility to your other cards. And yeah, because of that, I think it'll just be good in general. So we're done with the main cards for the decks. We're going to talk about the signature cards we've seen so far. A couple of these are from the presentation with Dave and Jimmy, I believe, but I just didn't include them in the other video. So starting off, we have the Rumble signature spell for 1 energy and 1 power. It has that reaction speed and can be repeated for the same cost. Give your mechs 1 might this turn. Obviously in tandem with Rumble's effect. This is now if they have shield. So let's say you have 3 units there. You can now buff them up to shield 2 effectively. And then play this again for shield 3. I know it's not actual shield, it's just might, but you know what I mean. So that's like pretty considerable. It's really comparable to Viktor's spell, I guess. Although that drained one from the enemies as well as buffing yours. And this only affects mechs. I think in the Rumble deck it'll be fine if like the mech support is fine. But again, we haven't seen any real mechs here, so there's not much more information we can go off. Similarly, we have Relentless Pursuit. This is the Lucian signature spell for 2 energy and a power. Action speed, move a friendly unit. You may attach an equipment with the same controller to it. And then this turn, that unit has, whenever I conquer, you may move me to my base. Ooh. Okay, so all of the move effects are great, obviously. And then we are getting a free move, which is always super powerful. This also is pretty cheap for a free move. It's basically Ride the Wind, right? Yeah, this is just Ride the Wind in orange and purple, but you also get to equip an equipment to it. There's no requirements on like the size or cost of that equipment. So not BF Sword because that's the wrong color, but throw a big equipment on here and then swing it in. It goes back to base once it conquers. It's still readied because you haven't moved the actual unit this turn. You then move it forward. Take the other battlefield as well. You conquer, then you pull it back. It's a little bit unfortunate. Oh, no, it's a you may effect. So you don't have to move the other one back either. You can just hold it at that position once you conquer the second battlefield. Yeah, no, this is nutty. This is a really good card. This is like a 3 of in every Lucian deck, I'd imagine. Then we have Rek'Sai's signature spell, the same cost as the Lucian one. Reveal the top 2 cards of your main deck. You may play one of them, reduce its cost by 2. Draw any you do not play this way. Okay, so any 2-drop card you see is free. So if you hit the altar, that's free, that's cool. If you hit the Void Drone, that is also going to be free. Unfortunately, doesn't cost -1. So that's great. At the very least, this is a 2 energy draw 2. So at the very least, this is a 2 energy draw 2. At the very most, it's a pay 1 power, get whatever the top card of the deck is for the cost reduction of the cost you paid for this card, and then draw 1. Yeah, this is also very good. Yeah. No, this is great. Comparing it to like Consult the Past in blue, that is 4 energy if you're going to hard cast it, and you get to draw 2. So this is half the cost, so you do have to pay the power. But again, you're getting a 2 energy discount on one of those cards, so it's like you're not paying anything. Yeah, this is really strong. We have Aurelia's signature spell. Again, 1 energy, 1 power, reaction speed. Give a unit 2 might this turn, and another unit -2 might this turn. So in connection with the Aurelia Legend, you get to ready a unit as well with this. So you move it in, you exhaust the unit for the standard move, and you cast this, you buff your card, drain theirs, so you probably win that combat, and then you use the Aurelia to ready that unit. If that unit has ganking, you can then move it to the other battlefield. That's pretty good. That's really good, especially like pair this with Kayn. That's very strong. Yeah, no, this is a banger card. Then we have some cards in Chinese. So I have the translations here. We just don't have the actual card art yet. So this is Counter-Strike. This is Jax's signature spell for 2 and 1 power. It says reaction speed, choose a unit and block the next damage that it would receive this turn, then draw 1 card. So off the bat, it's very similar to Unyielding Spirit in orange, but you block 1 instance of damage rather than all spell and ability damage for the turn, and then you also get to draw 1 card. So defensively, this is great because they swing in with Dead Bloom Predator or whatever else. You just say no to that. That card gets pushed back if you're defending. And then you still get the card draw. Very good card. The signature spells are freaking crazy this set. Okay. We have the green Azir champion. This is 6 energy, 1 power, 6 might. They have the action ability, move me to a chosen friendly unit location and move the chosen friendly unit to my previous location. So it's just swap the unit spots. Then, if that unit is equipped, you may choose one of the equipment and equip it to me. You may only use this ability once per turn. Interesting. Okay, so he can swap places with something. If you're playing purple and green, you can trigger Traveling Merchant or any move effects, I guess. The ones that make gold tokens as well. Throw the equipment on this card for free, which is nice, especially in paired with the Azir Legend, because they make your sand soldiers have weapons master. So they all get their stuff for free, or for cheaper at least. If the other unit you're switching to is in the base, then you can kind of use this, again, like a Darius effect, where you're like, Azir's up here, units back here. Swap them. Azir is still ready because it doesn't say you're tapping or exhausting it. Then Azir moves to the other battlefield. So yeah, this is pretty cool. Again, a little bit on the pricey side with this one. Because this card's not an exhaust effect, even the first turn you play it, you can swap locations with something. So there's maybe something to be said there. But this is, my only worry about this card is it's expensive, right? So maybe this doesn't see play, but I don't know. Depending on the other Azir champion unit, like this is pretty good. Next we have Corina Veraza. This is another Legends of Runeterra card. So they have Accelerate for 1 and a yellow. This is 7 energy, 1 power, 6 might. So very expensive card before Accelerate. So you're paying the Thousand Tail Watcher price for this card. It's 1 might less though. So the effect has to be comparable to Thousand Tail Watcher and maybe better to justify that. Karina says, when I move to a battlefield, summon 3 1 might recruits there. Okay, I don't think it's better than Thousand Tail Watcher because that's -3 to everything, right? That enables a bunch of other effects. But put this on Treferian War Camp. Those are now swinging for 2 each. Any token buffing effects, those also get a buff. Yeah, I'm not super seeing this. I see that like there's some potential there depending on the other cards we get. But in most cases, like this is just a worse Watcher. And I get that this is like in yellow, not in blue. But like the token decks that want those recruits are Lux and Viktor. Those are yellow and blue, so like why would you play this over Watcher, I guess? Maybe you're playing for like the hold with 7 units and you get the win the game that way thing. Battlefield there. Yeah, I don't see this one, unfortunately. It's not bad, it's just like it's competing with Watcher, right? And our last card is going to be the Soraka champion unit. This is 4 energy, 1 power, 4 might. It says she must be assigned combat damage last, so similar to the Caitlyn unit that we have. And then if a friendly unit takes lethal damage at my location, if their might is lower than mine, remove that damage, exhaust them, recall them to base instead. Ooh, so not once per turn. Zonia's Hourglass effect for everything smaller than her. We're going to put a bunch of equipment on her, this way she's massive. We can throw in cards that like trigger when they move. And then, like, you throw them on the battlefield, they die, they just move backwards. She can't be targeted first with damage, so she's hard to get rid of in general. Yeah, that's pretty fucking good. Again, this works really well with token decks as well, because all of the 1 might tokens or recruits go back to your base when they die rather than actually dying. Yeah, that's really good. So obviously, Viktor, Lux, those are big ones. What else is yellow? You can play this with Fiora and like make her mighty with just 1 card. Renata-Glasc, Azir, both possible. In Sett, this makes your cards even harder to kill. Leona, you can basically send the Leona back to base, so like you can send her in to stun something else. If you give like the buff to Soraka. Does this go in any yellow deck? So I was thinking maybe it could work in Darius because like the card goes back when you kill him with Baited Hook, but no, it has to die from combat damage. No, yes, the card has to die from taking damage. So you can't use things like Baited Hook, but outside of that, like maybe Rek'Sai and Darius don't play this, but like they might still. I think this can go in any order deck. Like that's really good. This might be my favorite card of the day, honestly. I think this is really cool and you might be able to make a lot of interesting plays happen with it. Yeah, there you have it. There are all the 50 plus cards that we're getting with the Spiritforged set that we have revealed so far that we haven't talked about already in this channel. If you haven't seen my video talking about the Dave and Jimmy presentation where I went through all of the champion cards we got there, you can go check that out through the end screen here. If you enjoyed this, remember to leave a like and subscribe. Let me know which of these cards you think are better or worse than I thought. Which cards are your favorite or which cards you want to build around. I think the Soraka cards are really nutty. I think a lot of the equipment decks are going to be very cool. The treasure package or the gold package, I think has a lot of potential. We just need like a payoff to it and maybe another way to make it more consistent. The World Atlas, I think is going to be very good in Ahri, which I'm very excited for. Lucian is probably better than I thought he was, just based off the support there. Jax is going to be absolutely nutty. Yeah, a lot of cool stuff in this set. Let me know your thoughts. Again, Leave a like, subscribe. You can check out the Discord in the description to talk about this future set, these videos. If you want to play a couple games with me to get some practice in, or just generally talk about Riftbound with the other people there. You can also check me out on Patreon if you want to support the channel a little bit extra. I do try to get a video out every day, at least 5 times a week, 7 if I'm feeling crazy. So every bit of support helps and makes that more possible. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one though.